Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You could find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you on a daily basis. If you're not already a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. You get access to the model you see here, which I'll be using throughout the video. We have a single lineup builder, excuse me, a multi lineup builder, also a private Discord server full of DFS pros to help you improve your game. There is a 30-minute window leading up to each slate's lock where you can ask your lineup and slate specific questions. So without further ado, let's get into it here. Getting a little bit of a late start today. We also have an early lock time, so the shelf life for this video isn't going to be quite as strong as always, but that's fine. Let's go through game by game. I want to get you guys as much information as possible. Only a 4-game main slate here. There are 2 early games that we can ignore. The Nets at Denver and the Cavs at Charlotte. Neither of those games are on this slate. So let's go through team by team, game by game. Still waiting on a few injury reports, unfortunately, but yesterday when we did this, a lot of the news we expected broke the way we thought it would. So I think we're in good shape to kind of break this down. As always, I'm going to slowly build lineups on both sides, let you guys kind of see where I'm at in approaching this slate. So let's get into it here. First game on the slate, we have the 76ers hosting the Wizards. Sixers are 7.5-point favorites at home. Starting on the Philadelphia side, no major injury news, just G League guys. And then you look over on Washington, no major injury news, just G League guys. So really nothing notable we have to worry about. It wouldn't shock me to see someone like Embiid or Harden rested, but neither of them are on the injury report, so they should both be good to go here. I think they're both excellent options. This is a nice pace up for the Sixers against a team in Washington who plays very mediocre at best defense. Very mediocre. Kind of a oxymoron, but anyway, Joel Embiid looks great here if you can afford him. Obviously, one of the best plays on the slate. James Harden, a little bit of a discount, not quite the same upside, but he has had a lot of big games lately. Tyrese Maxey let us down the other night on FanDuel, but his price hasn't budged at 6,600. In a matchup like this, he's someone I could see getting to as well. If you're desperate for value, D'Anthony Melton is going to see enough minutes. It's just the usage is very low for him, so he's not always going to get there in terms of fantasy. Tobias Harris has been a lot better lately. I don't mind him as kind of a last man in type play as well, but really the priorities here are obviously Joel Embiid and James Harden if you can afford them, and then Tyrese Maxey over on DK. So I do think that I want to get to Embiid here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pencil him in on both sites. Maybe we find that on this short slate, there's not enough value to really support him in these lineups, in which case we'd have to go with a more balanced build. But I do think we're going to see some value open up as we kind of talk through this slate. So let's move over to the Washington side of things now. Again, no real injury news here. They just got some G Leaguers listed on the report. So Kuzma, Beal, Porzingis, all viable. They're all kind of priced where they should be, though, and it is a tough matchup against Philadelphia. So I like Beal better on DK. I think he's fine. Porzingis on both sides, he's in play. And then same with Kuzma. They're all kind of priced where they should be, though. They're all kind of owned where they should be. So none of these guys are really standing out to me as great options. I think a lot of us were hoping Delon Wright would continue to start with Monte Morris getting healthy. That does not seem to be the case. If Morris is the starting point guard tonight for the Wizards, I think we go to him for value. On a slate, we're kind of lacking value. Let's pull him up. He did start last game. Nice to see him hit value pretty easily in just 26 minutes of play. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil him in here. Nice little correlation play with Embiid, barely, but sure, why not? 4,600, he's cheap enough. And then let's take a look over on FanDuel. We already put in Embiid just to see if we can make him fit. I like Morris here as well. A little bit riskier at that 5,200 price tag, but like I said, we're kind of lacking value for now. I'll pencil him in. I think he is worthy of a core consideration. The big three for Washington, again, all priced where they should be. You could get to some maybe Daniel Gafford as a last minute. Denny Avila in tournaments does have some upside, but really it's the big three and then Morris for me on Washington. And it kind of feels weird to say, but Morris is actually my favorite play here. Certainly some risk, but on a 4-game slate where we're lacking value, it's a risk I'm willing to take. So very good. We can move into the next game here now. Pretty interesting one. We have the Thunder at the Spurs. The Thunder are 3-point favorites on the road. And yeah, the Thunder are on a back-to-back, so we don't have their injury report yet. The Spurs have Sochan and Keldon Johnson both listed as questionable. Kem Birch is out. I want to start with the OKC side, and it's going to be tough because we don't have any injury news from them yet. But personally, I think we're going to see SGA rested here. He has not been playing back-to-backs. I could just verify that looking at the game logs. I mean, Let's see, 7th, 8th, they had a back-to-back. He didn't play. 28th, 1st, he didn't play either game because he was banged up. 23rd, 24th, back-to-back, didn't play. So a team that's, yeah, I mean, they've actually been good this year. I think it's tough to say they're truly tanking, but yeah, they're not going to push SGA more than they have to. I wish we had this injury report now. It'd be a little bit easier to talk through everything here. Um, but yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of value open up for OKC as we always do. Josh Giddey, first and foremost, he's been excellent with SGA at the lineup. I know he put up a few duds as chalk a couple weeks ago, but whenever SGA is out, especially in a matchup like this one against San Antonio, I think you have to go to Giddey. Just want to kind of disclaim all of this and say if SGA is in, he's the best play on OKC, and you should load up on him, and it's going to be tough to trust everyone else except for Giddey, but I don't think he's going to play here. I'd be very surprised if he does. So Giddey becomes a core play. Isaiah Joe, as long as he starts, becomes a core play. Jalen Williams with the LEN looks good here as well, but he's a little bit overpriced for me now. I can still see getting to him in tournaments. Lou Dort surprisingly sees a major boost in usage with SGA out of the lineup, so I like Dort here as well. So Joe, Giddey, and Dort, as long as all three are in the starting lineup and SGA is out, I think they're all core plays. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil them all in. This is tricky though because Joe has point guard eligibility. Giddey has shooting guard and point guard. So I would put Joe at that point guard spot. Honestly, I'd rather play both these guys over Monte Morris. So if you want to pull Morris for another pay up guard, that's fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and pencil in Dort. But yeah, all three of those OKC guys I think are worth getting to. Again, we're not going to have a ton of value tonight. Um, but yeah, I do trust. It feels weird to say, but I do trust Isaiah Joe. I do trust Josh Giddey, and even Lou Dort at a thin, small forward position makes a lot of sense to me. So we got Embiid in now. We're still at 5K per player, 6K per player over on FanDuel. So a pretty nice start. And we can talk about some of the other guys. I mean, if you see Jalen Williams starting or Saric in the front court, they're both okay. Lindy Waters has had some decent games. I can see using him as a last man in. Never a play I'm excited to get to though. Like I said before, Jalen Williams with the LEN looks good, but he is a little bit overpriced. I do think you could play him in tournaments, especially in lineups where you're not playing Giddey or Joe. If Giddey gets limited or Joe gets limited, something like that, then I think there's a decent chance we see a big game out of Jalen Williams. And let me just check Giddey's game log real quick. I mean, he played 31 last night. I know they've been kind of like halfway resting him in back-to-backs, which makes it a little bit tricky. 19 minutes, 34 in the back end. Let's see, 37 minutes. Then he played 21 in the follow-up, and then we got 32 here. So maybe he's not as safe as the field is suggesting in Josh Giddey. I think Joe and Dort's minutes should be pretty secure. If they're going to rest anyone here, kind of mid-game, it might be Josh Giddey. But for me, I think you can still get to him in AK, and if he only plays 30 minutes, he should still hit value. So in tournaments, maybe you could pivot off Giddey. He's a little bit expensive if he's not going to get his full run. But guys like Isaiah Joe and Dort are going to be tough to get away from, especially Isaiah Joe, whose usage rate and just overall shooting percentage has been excellent this season, especially with SGA out of the lineup. So enough about the Thunder. Certainly a spot you're going to want to look in most of your lineups, though. We can move over to the Spurs side of the ball. Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, both questionable. Like I said, if they're both in, they're both solid plays. Devin Vassell, definitely the best play here for the Spurs on DK at 5,800. That feels a little bit too cheap to me. Trey Jones looks fine. I want to take a quick look at what he's been getting for minutes. I know he was working back from an injury. I know I recommended him the other night, and yeah, he only played 25 minutes, still hit value. That's a little bit of luck, honestly. I'd be fine getting to him here again today. Zach Collins left the game injured. Actually, no, he wasn't injured. He was ejected for the Spurs. So I'm fine getting to him at 6,800 on FanDuel where you can play him at power forward. I think that's a really appealing play. And if we get Sochan or Johnson out, that's a nice boost to Collins as well, which is going to make him look even better there. So keep an eye on that. Other than that, I mean, Malachi Branham maybe is the last man in. We saw Doug McDermott go off. Like off last game. He was wet from three, and we see that from him from time to time. So I'm totally fine going to McDermott. He's more of a boomer bust kind of tournament play, though. Unless we get Johnson and Sochan out, then McDermott would become a very, very appealing value option. So keep an eye on that. Maybe go to Collins, and if you have to pivot down to McDermott, you could upgrade at other positions, something like that. But for me, for now, the one core play is probably Collins over on FanDuel. Um, and then, yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and force anything else just yet. Let's see. I used up all my guard spots. But does Vassell have or small forward eligibility. No, he does not. Well, yeah, I'll pencil him in. Let's go ahead and get Vassell in there. So yeah, I mean, still, we have enough per salary to maybe still build out a decent lineup, but yeah, it's going to be tough with Embiid. But at the same time, I do think he's the best player on the slate. But I've been jumping around a little bit too much. Let's just move into the next game on the board now. We have the Trailblazers at the Pelicans. The Blazers are 2-point favorites on the road, 230.5 point game total here. So let's start with the Pelicans side of things. So the Pelicans, another team on a back-to-back. We don't have their injury news. Ingram was ruled out late, right before lock last time out, which made CJ an excellent play. If Ingram's out again, CJ once again will be a priority. Personally, I think Ingram goes here. He should be fine. I think they were just resting him on the front of the back-to-back, and if Ingram's in, he's going to be excellent everywhere. 8,500 on DK, 8,200 on FanDuel, totally reasonable price. But again, if he's out, McCollum becomes a priority. Even with Ingram in, I do like McCollum as a play, but not necessarily a core type option. There are other payups we're already focusing in on. Excuse me. But with Larry Nance out, we have been seeing more Jackson Hayes. He's fine as kind of a punt/value type option. Trying a lot of ownership though, a little bit risky, so I don't know that I'm rushing to get to him. We can pull up his game log real quick. You get to play him at power forward over on FanDuel. Yeah, he's consistently hitting 20 fantasy points with Nance out of the lineup, so maybe you could get to Jackson Hayes if you need him to open up some more value. Let's see what his price is like over on DK. If you center only, oh no, you can play him in power forward. That's great. So 3,600 for Hayes. Really nice build we got coming together over there as well. So I like the Pelicans here, but that news is going to be important. It is a back-to-back. Nothing would surprise me. Herbert Jones would look better if Ingram's out again, but CJ would be the core play and priority. If Ingram's in, they're both fine. Joe Val, boomer bust center play. I'm always fine with him in tournaments, but he's never really a priority. So yeah, definitely another situation to keep an eye on. It's unfortunate we don't have this news yet, as it is a back-to-back, but it is a very, very strong game environment. So do not ignore this game or these teams. Portland, Dame, obviously excellent if you can afford him. Um, he's listed as probable. I didn't even know he would be on the injury report. But yeah, Arcidiacono is questionable. Justice Winslow is still out, so nothing too major here. Nurkic starting to see more minutes. Still not going to rush to get to him. They're better center plays on the slate in terms of payups and value, so I probably won't get to him yet. Anthony Simons, scoring dependent guard. Wide range of outcomes, but a very high ceiling. Same with Jeremy Grant. Really good tournament plays, Simons and Grant. Not plays I'd consider core or use in cash games, though. Dame, obviously, if you can afford him, is excellent. He doesn't quite have the same ceiling with Simons back in the lineup, but he's also not quite as expensive. So Lillard looks good here. Simons looks good here. Grant looks good here. That's really all I'm all that interested in for the Blazers, but it is a good game environment. I can see maybe playing Tybal over on FanDuel where you're getting points for blocks and steals, but he's been over-owned on every single slate. I'm going to continue to fade him. But yeah, really good game environment. Hopefully we get that New Orleans news soon. Because Ingram is kind of a linchpin for the rest of the slate. So let's move into the next game now. We have just one more, I believe. The Knicks at the Lakers. The Lakers are 3-point favorites at home. 225.5 point game total here. It just moved up. So yeah, let's start over on the Lakers side, pulling up the injury report. Obviously, no LeBron James. Anthony Davis listed as probable. No Obama either. So AD was a big disappointment the other night. One of my favorite plays on the slate. Put up pretty much a dud. Just wasn't shooting the ball. Almost got there to value, which is like rebounds, assists, etc. But yeah, not a good night for AD. I'm fine going back to him here. I definitely trust Embiid more, and there's no way you're going to fit both these guys in your lineup unless we get a lot more value to open up. So as things stand, I love AD. More of a tournament play for me, though, because I'm prioritizing Embiid. D'Angelo Russell looks fine. Good tournament play on both sides. Scoring dependent, though, wide range of outcomes. Dennis Schroeder's just cheap enough for me to consider. Not a priority play for me, though. Guys like Vanderbilt, Brown, Reeves, even Beasley on the wing, they're all okay. But really, it's tough for me to call any of them priorities here. And yeah, Vanderbilt, very popular, but a very wide range of outcomes. I could see getting away from that ownership and using guys like Collins, who we talked about, Jackson Hayes as forwards instead at lower ownership. So tough not to like AD here if you can fit him. Much easier to fit if you're not going to Embiid. But yeah, I like Russell. Other than that, there's really nothing I'm prioritizing from those Lakers. Over on the Knicks side of things, no injury report. Another team on a back-to-back. But unlike some of these other spots, I don't think we're going to see anyone rested for the Knicks. Randall, quickly, Barrett, Robinson, all good plays. Um, but yeah, you can really only get to quickly with confidence if Jalen Brunson's out. Has he been ruled out already? Because there's no injury report, but sometimes that does leak days before, or the reported days before rather. It's not exactly a secret. Um, Out Saturday with a foot injury. So if Jalen Brunson's in, he's fine here. If he's out, quickly becomes an excellent option in all formats, especially on DK at 6,900. That would be a boost to Randall as well against his former team. Sub 10K on both sites. I like him in tournaments. Mentioned Mitchell Robinson, totally reasonably priced. 5,400 on DK, I like a lot. 6,300 over on FanDuel, totally fine as well. And if Brunson's out, I think we do see enough usage to RJ Barrett for him to be in consideration here as well. So if Brunson is in, he's good, but not really a priority. If he's out, though, quickly and Randall both look excellent. So keep an eye on this one as well. I'm going to refresh the NBA site. We are coming up on 1:30. Maybe we get an injury report here. I guess not. So that's unfortunate. So let's talk through this real quick. No real surprises. Devin Vassell, Josh Giddey, McCollum, all very popular over on DK. I think if Ingram is in, McCollum's going to be a little bit over-owned over there. Keldon Johnson's questionable, drawing a lot of ownership. If he's in, he's fine. I mean, if he's out and Sochan's in, Sochan would be an excellent play, and vice versa. Isaiah Joe, one of my favorite value plays on the slate, under the assumption that SGA is going to be out. We like Robinson and Hayes as front court value plays. Damian Lillard, obviously, if you can afford him, is an excellent option as well. But yeah, I'm kind of prioritizing Embiid, and he's really not that popular. So I think if you can fit him today, that's kind of a good way to build. Over on FanDuel, we're looking at a similar situation. Maxi more popular as he's only 6,600 over there. Lou Dort on both sites with SGA likely out tonight. So yeah, just enough value for the slate to be interesting. There are enough quality pay up options that you can kind of build different lineups and get a little bit different from the field, even with the limited options here. We got Morris, Joe, Giddey, Dort, Collins, Hayes, and Embiid is kind of our starting point over on FanDuel. Morris, Giddey, Dort, Hayes, Embiid, Joe, Vassell over on DK. I don't know. I don't want to build full lineups, but this is a really good place to start. But obviously, things will change as that news starts to break. Once again, my name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Keep an eye on that injury news, which is all the more reason to sign up to Occupy Fantasy. Our models and projections will update in real time. You get access to that single and multi lineup builder. Also, our Discord server where we will be discussing injury news as it breaks. Once again, let's have some fun tonight, everyone. Take care and make some money. Good luck.